The night before the happiest day of my life, my world exploded. My name is Samantha, and I was supposed to marry the man of my dreams. The dress was steamed, the guests were flying in, the garden was blooming exactly as I'd planned. Everything was perfect until my sister stood up at our rehearsal dinner, cradled her stomach, and announced she was pregnant with my fiancé's baby. The silence was deafening. Every breath I took after that felt fake, like I was living inside someone else's nightmare. My fiancé Jackson stood frozen. My parents looked like statues. And my sister? She cried, whispered, "I'm so sorry," and collapsed into my mother's arms. I was humiliated, betrayed, torn apart by the two people I trusted most. But what no one knew was this. I wasn't about to let her walk away with my life. Because the pregnancy? It was a lie. A sick, twisted, desperate lie. And I was going to prove it. If you've ever been betrayed by someone close, if you've ever questioned your sanity in the face of someone else's manipulation, stay with me. This isn't just a story of sabotage. It's a story of strategy, strength, and revenge. Sweet, undeniable revenge. Because I didn't just expose the truth. I burned the lie to the ground with everyone watching. For a long time, I thought I had it all. A job I loved, a downtown apartment with exposed brick and morning light, and Jackson, the kind of man you think only exists in indie films and wedding Pinterest boards. He was thoughtful, quietly confident, never tried to be the center of the room, but somehow always was. Our first date had been in a used bookstore with creaky wooden floors and cappuccinos. He found a first edition copy of Jane Eyre and said, "You seem like the type of woman who'd appreciate this." I did. I do. We fell fast, but never carelessly. Every step was intentional. After a year, we adopted a rescue dog. After 2, he proposed during a weekend in wine country right as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky the color of blush and gold. I remember thinking, this must be what it feels like when everything aligns. My parents adored him. Even my best friend Melody, the hardest person in the world to impress, told me, "He's solid. I can see it in the way he looks at you." It felt safe, real. And then there was Allison, my sister, my once partner in crime, my co-architect of pillow forts and bad prank calls. We were only 2 years apart, and for most of our childhood, inseparable. But somewhere in high school, that closeness began to splinter. Not dramatically, there were no screaming fights, no slammed doors, just a slow erosion. I got into Northwestern. She applied late to DePaul, my dream school at the time, after I'd talked about it nonstop for 2 years. I didn't say anything, but I felt it. The pattern continued. I landed a job in marketing. She bounced between short-term gigs and communications. I started dating Jackson. A month later, she broke up with her boyfriend and showed up at my place unannounced, just to vent. Still, I kept hoping we'd find our way back to each other. When Jackson proposed, I remember calling her first, before my parents, before Melody. "Allison," I said, holding the ring to the phone camera, my voice shaking from joy. He asked. I said yes. She paused. "Wow, that's fast. It's been 2 years." "I know, I just didn't expect it." She was quiet for a beat too long. Then, "I'm happy for you, Sam. Really." I ignored the chill in her tone, because I wanted to believe this could be the moment we reconnected. Weddings bring people together, right? So I asked her to be my maid of honor. She hesitated, then smiled, a slow, practiced smile I hadn't seen since we were kids lying to our mom about broken dishes. "Of course," she said, "I'd be honored." And for a while, she meant it. She helped pick dresses, attended cake tastings, even threw me a beautiful engagement party with handwritten place cards and custom cocktail napkins that said S+J forever. It felt like we were healing, like maybe she was just in a rough patch, and my happiness didn't threaten her, it inspired her. But Melody wasn't convinced. "I don't know," she said one afternoon after a bridesmaid fitting. "Allison's intense." "She's trying," I said. "She's trying something," Melody muttered. I laughed it off. But that night I found myself replaying small moments. Like how Allison had changed her hairstyle to match mine. How she'd asked Jackson for his opinion on her outfit 3 times in one dinner. How she seemed to always sit next to him, even when there were open seats elsewhere. It was probably nothing. Sisters compete. That's normal, right? I told myself that. repeated it like a mantra. Besides, I had bigger things to focus on, like choosing between peonies or garden roses. We went with both. The venue was perfect, a lush botanical garden where Jackson and I had our third date. We booked it for early June, just as the roses would bloom. I had the dress, the band, the menu, the monogrammed invitations. Jackson was supportive but hands-off, the kind of groom who cared more about making sure I was happy than choosing tablecloth swatches. Every detail was in place. Every person was in position. What I didn't realize was that Allison had been planning something too. Not a toast, not a surprise performance, but something far more dangerous. She had always said she wanted a big moment. She just never told me what kind. Weddings bring out the best and worst in people. I was about to find out which side Allison was on. At first, she seemed unusually enthusiastic. She booked venue tours before I even had time to ask. She volunteered to handle caterer communication and organized Pinterest boards with color palettes I hadn't even considered yet. And it wasn't just the energy, it was the precision. Allison was suddenly a project manager, event designer, and wedding planner rolled into one. And part of me loved it. Maybe we were finally clicking again. Maybe the wedding was healing us. Until it wasn't. It started small, like her complaints about the bridesmaid dress color sage green, which she said made her look like a zombie. I offered alternatives, but she insisted she didn't want to make things difficult. "It's your wedding," she'd say with that sweetly sour smile. "I'll make it work." But she brought it up to every other bridesmaid behind my back. Then came the vendor incident. I was set on a specific florist who had done amazing minimalist installations. Allison accidentally double-booked another one, loud, flashy, entirely not my style, and told me it was too late to change. I only found out when I called the original florist for an update. When I confronted her, Allison pouted. "I thought you said you were overthinking everything." Melody caught on quickly. "She's not helping you. She's controlling the narrative." Still, I brushed it off. The wedding pressure, family dynamics, it could make anyone a little manic. Then there were the phone calls. Late night, whispered conversations in the hallway. Calls that ended when I entered the room. She'd laugh nervously and say, "Just work stuff," but she hadn't been working in months. When I pressed, she claimed she was consulting freelance for a startup. No website, no LinkedIn updates. Then there was Jackson. He never seemed off, not overtly. But sometimes I'd catch a flicker of discomfort in his eyes when Allison entered the room. He always tried to mask it. Maybe he didn't want to ruin things. Maybe he didn't want me to worry. One night, we were going over guest list changes when he looked up from his laptop and asked quietly, "Do you think Allison's okay?" "What do you mean?" "She just stares sometimes. At me. Or at us. I don't know. It's probably nothing." But it wasn't. 2 weeks before the wedding, Melody came over with a bottle of wine and a heavy silence. "What's up?" I asked. She tried to flirt with Jackson. I blinked. "What?" "At the cake tasting. When you went to the bathroom. I saw it. The way she touched his shoulder. The way she asked if he ever had doubts." "No, she wouldn't." "She did." I wanted to scream. Instead, I laughed. "You're being paranoid." Melody didn't smile. "So were you when she applied to DePaul behind your back. When she dated that guy you liked junior year. You've spent a decade making excuses for her, Sam. Maybe it's time you stop." I didn't respond. But that night, I watched Allison more closely. I saw it. The casual way she asked Jackson if he needed help unzipping something. The way she complimented his cologne and leaned in just a second too long. The time she sat on the armrest of his chair instead of the empty sofa. Something wasn't right. And still, I said nothing. Because the wedding was days away. Because I didn't want to believe it. The final straw came at my last dress fitting. Allison arrived late, claiming traffic. I was already in my gown. When she walked in, the boutique owner smiled and said, "You look beautiful in that dress, by the way." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "Oh, she was here earlier. She said she was just trying it on for fun." My stomach dropped. Allison hadn't mentioned anything. And trying on a wedding dress, my wedding dress, wasn't just fun. When I confronted her, she brushed it off. It was a joke. I was bored. But something in her eyes didn't match her words. A week later, during the rehearsal dinner, she made her move. The night before my wedding, I expected a toast. Instead, I got a bombshell. The rehearsal dinner was beautiful. My parents had rented out a cozy, upscale restaurant with hanging Edison bulbs and white roses draped across long wooden tables. Everyone was there, my childhood friends, Jackson's colleagues, cousins who'd flown in from out of state. It felt like a prelude to something sacred. Even Allison seemed normal. She greeted guests. She wore a subtle burgundy dress and had curled her hair just the way I liked it. She even complimented Melody, which shocked us both. I almost let myself believe everything was okay. After dinner, my father gave a touching speech about watching me grow up. Jackson's best friend Tyler cracked a few light-hearted jokes about bachelor parties and Jackson's inability to do his own laundry. There were laughs. There were tears. It was perfect. Then Allison stood up. She didn't clink her glass. She didn't smile. She just stood, placed one hand on her abdomen, and said, "I think Samantha deserves to know the truth before she makes the biggest mistake of her life." The room went still. My fork clinked against my plate as it fell from my hand. "What are you talking about?" I said, already knowing I wouldn't like the answer. Her eyes glistened with artificial pain. "I'm pregnant," she said. "And the father is Jackson." Someone gasped. My mother's mouth dropped open. Jackson's face went pale. My throat closed. "You're lying." "I wish I were." Her voice cracked. "But this wasn't something we planned. It just happened. One night, after one of our family dinners, I stood up so quickly the chair tipped. Jackson, he looked like he'd been struck by lightning." "That's not true." Allison turned to him, teary-eyed. "Don't pretend it didn't happen." Jackson's voice was sharp now. "I don't know what this is, but I never slept with your sister." People were whispering, pulling out phones. The air turned cold. I wanted to scream. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to believe him, but I couldn't think. "Why are you doing this?" I whispered to Allison, because I couldn't keep it a secret anymore. She looked around the room. "Everyone deserves to know." Then she burst into tears. My mother stood to help her. Jackson tried to come toward me. I raised a hand to stop him. "I need to go." "Samantha," I said, "I need to go." I walked out into the parking lot, stomach spinning, dress clinging to my skin. I could hear voices behind me. I could feel dozens of eyes on my back. And as I climbed into the back of a car and told the driver to just go anywhere, I realized if what she said was true, if even part of it was true, then my life had just ended in front of 50 people. But if it wasn't, then this was something else entirely. Something darker. Something far more calculated. The next morning, I didn't wake up to wedding bells. I woke up to chaos. Dozens of missed calls. Hundreds of texts. Messages from friends, cousins, people I hadn't spoken to in years. And none from Allison. Except one. A single text. "I'm sorry you had to find out this way. I hope one day you understand." I didn't cry the next morning. Not at first. I sat on my living room couch, still wearing the same clothes from the night before, my makeup smudged and crusted into the corners of my eyes. My phone buzzed non-stop, calls from relatives, confused friends, reporters from local wedding blogs. But not from her, not from Allison. And that silence was louder than anything. Then Melody arrived. She didn't say a word. She just walked in, holding 2 coffees and a folder. When she sat beside me, I finally broke. The sobs came fast, uncontrollable. The betrayal had cracked something in me, and now that I wasn't in front of a crowd, I let it shatter. After a while, Melody said calmly, "We're going to figure out the truth." "I don't know if I want to know the truth." "You do. You need it." And I don't believe her. "You think she faked the pregnancy?" Melody nodded. "I don't think. I know." That's when our investigation began. First, we scoured Allison's social media. Her Instagram had a string of cryptic posts in the last month, quotes about betrayal, loneliness, claiming what's yours, but no signs of morning sickness, no baby bumps, no cravings or doctor visits. Then, we checked her browser history on the family laptop she sometimes used. A few weeks earlier, she'd searched how to fake pregnancy belly, realistic pregnancy pads, and adhesive prosthetic stomachs. We stared at the screen in disbelief. "She planned this," I whispered. "She wanted to make it believable." Melody narrowed her eyes. "She wanted to destroy you." Next, we checked her Amazon reviews. That's when the sick knot in my stomach twisted tighter. 2 weeks before the rehearsal dinner, she'd reviewed a book titled Coping with Morning Sickness, a Week-by-Week Pregnancy Survival Guide. Her review? Great content for acting purposes. Feels authentic. Acting purposes. Not real. Not medical. Not genuine. She wasn't even trying to hide it. Then came the smoking gun. A story post from 2 months ago quickly deleted, but Melody had screenshotted it. Allison showing off a subscription box of loose, flowy dresses perfect for bloating and comfort. At the time, it seemed normal. But now, we zoomed in. Behind the dresses tucked in the corner of the box was a label, Prostamac FX Hollywood Prosthetics. I sat in stunned silence. Melody turned to me slowly. She bought a fake pregnancy belly. And she didn't stop there. We contacted bridesmaids. Some of them remembered odd things: Allison constantly adjusting under her shirt, skipping champagne for the baby, but never attending appointments. Tyler, Jackson's best man, called me that evening. There's something else, he said. The night of the bachelor party, Allison showed up. What? She said she had a gift basket for Jackson. I thought it was weird, but she stayed, sat next to him the whole night, took pictures with him. My heart clenched. Did anything happen? Not that I saw. Jackson seemed super uncomfortable. Melody and I exchanged looks. She staged a lie there, she said. Probably planned to announce it then, but chickened out. Then came the final piece of the puzzle. Melody contacted a friend who worked at a local costume shop. She bought the prosthetic here, the friend said. Came in about 3 weeks ago. Told us she was auditioning for a short film. Asked for the most realistic belly we had. She even asked how to glue it down so it wouldn't shift during movement. By the end of that day, we had a prosthetic belly purchase. Amazon reviews, social media clues, eyewitness reports from bridesmaids and Jackson's friends, her own internet searches. The pregnancy was fake. The lie, deliberate. The motive, rage, jealousy, long-standing resentment that finally erupted in the most public, humiliating way possible. But she didn't expect us to fight back. She wanted a grand finale. We'd give her one. Only this time, we'd write the script. She wanted drama. She wanted spectacle. So I gave her one, just not the kind she thought she'd control. My parents had been torn. My mom was heartsick. My dad was furious. They didn't know what to believe, only that something had gone terribly, terribly wrong. So when I proposed a reconciliation dinner to clear the air and bring the family back together, they agreed. Cautiously, hopefully. They didn't know what I was planning. Only Melody, Jackson, and I did. I need your help, I told Jackson. But it'll be hard. He nodded. I'll do whatever you need. And he did. We set the dinner for Sunday evening, 3 days after what should have been our wedding. My mother arranged a home-cooked meal. My father lit candles, trying to bring warmth to a cold, splintered situation. Allison arrived wearing a soft maternity dress. The fake bump was back, peeking obviously under her flowing fabric. Her makeup was soft. Her hair curled just so. She looked like the victim. I almost admired the performance. She didn't expect me to be there, or Jackson. When she saw us seated at the table, her jaw tightened for just a second before she put on her performance mask. What's this? My mom looked surprised. Honey, we invited everyone. You said you wanted to apologize. I didn't know they'd be here. She instinctively placed a hand on her stomach. That's when I stood and took out the evidence box. Allison, I said, calm but deadly. This ends tonight. What are you talking about? She blinked, wide-eyed. I'm not here to fight. You weren't pregnant. Yes, I am. Where's the doctor's note? The appointment schedule? The prenatal vitamins? Silence. Allison, I stepped forward. Why did you search prosthetic pregnancy belly on Dad's laptop? My parents turned to her in confusion. Her mouth opened, closed. Why did you leave an Amazon review that said, great for acting purposes? Why did you buy this? I reached into the box, pulled out the prosthetic stomach adhesive still sealed. Then I pulled out the receipt from the costume shop. Then the screenshot of her subscription box. And finally, the boutique owner's note confirming she had tried on my wedding dress weeks before. I have every timestamp, every digital footprint, every lie. You didn't just fake a pregnancy. You tried to destroy my life. Her voice cracked. You don't understand, you're right. I cut in. I don't. but they deserve to. I turned to my parents. She tried to sabotage my wedding, publicly, deliberately, and it was all a lie. Allison snapped. Fine. She screamed. You want the truth? Everyone froze. I'm sick of being in your shadow, Samantha. You get everything: the perfect job, the perfect man, the perfect life. You don't even try, and everyone loves you for it. My mother gasped. My father sat back in stunned silence. All I ever got were your hand-me-downs. You think you're so much better than me? Always were. I stared at her. So you faked a pregnancy. To what? Make Jackson leave me? She laughed bitterly. I was going to tell the truth after the wedding. I just wanted to ruin the fantasy. I wanted you to know how it feels to be second. What followed was silence. An unbearable, vibrating silence. Then my mother began to cry. My father stood slowly and left the room. Jackson reached for my hand. Allison collapsed into the chair, the fake belly still attached. She looked smaller now, pathetic, lost. There was no joy in watching her fall, only a quiet relief. Not because she suffered, but because the lie was finally over. Later that night, I stayed behind to clean up the mess. The prosthetic belly still sat on the dining room table, a grotesque centerpiece of what used to be family. My mom wrapped it in a towel and tucked it in a drawer, like it was a dead thing. And in a way, it was. A version of my sister, the one I trusted, was gone. And maybe she'd never been real in the first place. The next few days felt like walking through wreckage, not just of a wedding, but of a reality I thought I knew. I canceled the honeymoon, donated my dress, packed away the invitation boxes that never got mailed. What I couldn't pack away was the ache, the violation, the haunting question. How did I not see it? Jackson stayed by my side. He didn't try to explain or fix it. He just listened, brought me tea, walked the dog in silence when I couldn't speak. One night, I asked him plainly, "Did you ever feel anything for her?" He shook his head without hesitation. "No, never. I tolerated her for your sake. That's all." His eyes were honest, exhausted, heartbroken, not for himself, but for me. Still, I told him I needed space. Not because I didn't trust him, but because I didn't trust myself yet. I started therapy. My counselor, Dr. Harris, asked me in the first session, what hurt more, losing the wedding or losing the sister you thought you had? The answer surprised me. The sister, because deep down, even through the distance and subtle resentment, I always thought we'd find our way back. I never imagined she'd weaponize that bond, that she'd fake something so intimate, so sacred, just to destroy me. Weeks passed. I focused on work, on healing, on forgiving myself for not seeing it sooner. Then, one rainy Tuesday morning in August, I got an email from Allison. Subject line: "When you're ready to read this." 12 pages. 12 pages of pain, jealousy, and resentment that she'd bottled up since we were kids. How she always felt like second place. How she hated herself for comparing our lives. How she convinced herself that if she could just make me fall, people might finally see her. She ended the letter with, "I know you may never forgive me. I just want you to know I'm getting help. I'm sorry, and I hope one day you'll find peace even if I'm not part of it." I didn't respond. Not right away. But a few weeks later, I invited her to meet. Neutral ground. A quiet calf from our high school days. She looked tired, older, but healthier somehow. She cried. I didn't. I'd already cried enough. We didn't make up. We didn't hug. We just talked. And that was enough. Eventually, Jackson and I rebuilt not the wedding, but the relationship. We started from scratch. No rush timeline. No pressure. Just two people choosing each other again, not because everything was perfect, but because we had faced the fire and survived. We got married a year later. Quiet ceremony. 20 people. No maid of honor. Just honesty. Just healing. Just us. As I stood at the altar, I didn't think about the past. I thought about the present. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't in months. Peace. To anyone listening who's been betrayed by someone you love, I see you. You will feel like you're unraveling, like you can't trust your memories, your heart, even your own eyes. But hold on, truth will come. And when it does, don't let the betrayal define you. Let it refine you. Because forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means creating space for a different future. One you choose, not one you're forced into.